Well, I suppose it sucks to be you then, doesn't it? I won't be streaming for that long though, so if you're leaving in 30 minutes then it's about the right time. Anyway, now what we can do is we're gonna make amendments to this model over here, which is made by this tag utter, who is really good at making models, but it needs a few changes anyway. So let's start with the top view. Right now it's kind of fat, which isn't really what a ship might look like, and that might not actually be a problem because, well, Nomad stuff doesn't have to look like a ship. But in this case, I think it would be better if it was just trimmed a little bit. What we can do is we can have probably two layers. Trim it like this. It might look a bit better. These are some fairly big moves, so I've already taken a look at this model and it's got these kind of panels which overhang, so if you just make them overhang a little bit less, should be a bit fine. Probably, if you just make the angles of no difference, it's more of a 5-degree kind of angle. Although having them tilted is kind of nice too. But Nomads do with 45-degree angles everywhere and stuff, so it makes it look more like part of the faction. Another thing is that it's kind of back end of it is a bit weird. I know that it's got an engine in the back, but it's the wrong shape of engine. So you kind of expect some kind of engine cluster rather than a single engine, I guess. And it shouldn't really be round either. So, and they can also stick out the back, so put a stick out the back kind of thing going on there. And then the panels can curve around a little bit, so it's kind of a bit broken up in the middle, so it's not a continuous thing. It's pretty much what he did here already, just slightly different proportions, I guess. Then we want to remove those like greebling details. Kind of, I don't really like it when those are used in general because they're a pretty cheap way of getting details. It's not really it's really easy to do, but it doesn't usually doesn't achieve the intended effect. It's just you know that something needs to go there, so you put it there. Whereas I think a better job, the hard way of doing it, to put a special shape there, which is supposed to be that shape. So, but sort of sticking, lines across it doesn't actually make it better. It just makes it more complicated. So yeah, I kind of can't tell what's going on with the turret. It's probably you know, bigger barrel or something. If we just zoom in, turret, see. One thing that Utter does quite a lot is have really thin turret rings. I think that's probably because he's a developer for games or whatever. They keep, but in any case, they usually have really thin turret rings where it's just like stuck on a point. But you kind of don't want to do that in real life. You just don't really have those, and it makes the turret look really wobbly. Um, but it's kind of like, I guess, a standard thing where you just have a single dual axis pivot point and it can go up and down, left and right, whatever. I don't I don't like it, and we don't have to do it either because Subcom supports uh, whatever turrets you want. So kind of the same thing here. Um, this thing is looking pretty weird because it looks like it's been stuck on. It's got a overhang in every direction, and overhangs in some directions are good, but overhangs in other directions are bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to probably just make the brush a little bit smaller. You kind of want it a little bit more built up, I guess. I don't really know um, how. Yeah, and then you can have the overhang on the back. You don't have to. But the thing is, when you have an overhang on every side, it looks like it's really separate from the thing, whereas we don't actually want that. We only want it to be slightly separated and looking like part of it. We want to probably move this antenna thing back a bit. I'm just going to redraw it rather than trying to paste it. Yeah, just to redo the bridge again. How do you spell bridge? I don't know. Yeah, that's better. Turret ring. Just probably make it a little bit. The thing is with this turret is that it's actually got a same type of turret as with the T3 mobile artillery and other such units. So they're supposed to share the same weapon, and they just have variations on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab an old piece of drawing from me, put it in here, and then just sort of massage it down. And this isn't to say that it should look like this, but it should kind of you should kind of have it in mind that it's supposed to be that type of weapon. So they might share the same barrel, and they might share the same thing. So when he models this, I expect him to make his own thing. But but you want to make the provision plan ahead, so to speak, for so that when you make this model final, you can actually just take the barrel and put it on the other units, and then they can use the same kind of projectiles, and then you can make variations on that barrel, because this is going to be used for the T3 artillery satellite as well, things like that. So it's a clever plan just to make the faction a bit more uniform. You have to sometimes make the weapon the same, which isn't actually less work, because you have to design more instead. And I feel that design process actually takes the most time, so it would almost be easier to just not do this. But we're gonna go for the high quality stuff instead. Okay. And then is there a back view? Yeah, there is. So I kind of like these. I'm just gonna draw a smiley face, and I like these as well. I'm gonna draw another smiley face. Let's see. These radar dishes are pretty good. I really like what he did with them. I think they look really nice. However, they don't actually look quite Nomads, so I'm not sure what to do with them. They are pretty good, so I'm gonna keep them for now, and then we can always remove them later anyway if we need to. I kind of wanted to, have some idea about kind of radar thing like this from yesterday. There was a stream about where we found a ship. Sort of had this kind of radar thing. I really liked that the radar was its own feature, but it's not quite suitable. Actually, maybe because I want to make the ship longer anyway. Um, kind of forgot about that actually. I wanted to make the ship longer. That's kind of one of the bigger moves right from the beginning. So maybe the radar thing wouldn't be. It doesn't have to go on here just because you have a good idea. It doesn't mean you have to stick it on the first thing you make after that. So maybe this is a plan for later. I'm probably gonna do something like that. Just extend the back. We're gonna get rid of this guy. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a screenshot of this thing and just stick it in there as a possibility. If he feels like adding it, he can. If he doesn't have to. It's sort of uh, optional kind of thing. Let's see. I'll even underline the maybe because it could be something completely different. Just so he doesn't feel like he has to do it, because it isn't about having to do anything. This is just about doing it one, and then Retard will fix it for you. the main point is that I just like the idea, and maybe if he finds a good spot for it, then he can. But otherwise, it doesn't have to be there. I'll just draw these on to make it flat, because Nomads stuff is flat, so. Front needs a bit of changing, because if we look over here, it's kind of just like a hole, and it's a bit messy, this whole thing. What I mean is, what, is there a front view? No. Well, you can kind of see it over here. So what it's doing is, it's doing this, which is varying thickness of these panel things. That's actually bad, because what you want to do is to have a clarity in your design. When you have a panel, you want it to really be a panel, and what that means is it has a uniform thickness, so you can bend it in any way you want, but when you do that, it's got the same thickness everywhere, and then it becomes really clear what it is, and it doesn't look confusing. And of course you can then take your panel and taper the end, but that's only at the end. But what he's done here is he's just made this kind of shape and then called it a day. And it kind of looks like a panel from the outside, but on the inside it doesn't. And that's what makes it confusing to you, because you see both the inside and the outside at the same time. From here, for example, right? You see one of the panels on the outside and one of the panels on the inside, and it doesn't look like they add up. That's because they don't. So in order to fix that, what you want to do is you actually want to make it a uniform thickness. Now, that's the idea behind panels, is that, you know, if you want to make like stuff like that. The problem is that it's going to be pretty hard to explain this in a picture format. So I expect to, I don't know if he's watching right now, actually, which he's not. So that's the thing. I could explain it in words, but I want to just draw it down. It's a bit of a challenge, but it's a kind of challenge which I'm happy to take, because it's always good to practice your uh, expression through drawing, so that you can communicate with people without words, just diagrams and stuff. I kind of need that. It's a useful life skill anyway. So, just saying, indent these things because they're kind of on the outside, but I wanted them to be, I think they'll be looking better on the inside. I don't know what's going on here. It's very confusing because there's the shadow from the panels, and there's also this square. I don't know what that is. This other square. Can't really tell what's going on here, and it doesn't help looking at the top view, because it looks like there's some kind of box over here, and then there's some kind of bent panel over here with fins sticking out. I don't know. It's pretty confusing. So I can't really. Yeah, there is a. Hmm, this thing looks pretty funky. It's not really in the Nomad style though. Anyway, I just want to clean this up. You know, for a start, there's no need to. I kind of like this sticky outy thing. That's fine. Uh, but what's not so fine is this indent. Doesn't really make sense. You don't need to put it, and then you can just add squares on it if you want to make it more complex. But you know, um, I'm not actually going to draw the squares so they don't confuse him. Make flat, and then draw something like this. And the point of this isn't just to be super good looking or anything, it's just to provide him some feedback so that he can then take it to himself, do what he wants with it, you know, not too prescriptive. Just make that arrow a little bit nicer looking so it's more clearly an arrow. And it's good to put things on multiple angles, so when you have a side view and the top view and things like that, you want to show it both on the side view and on the top view that this is what you want to do. I'm just gonna grab this and then check which layer it's on, and just copy it over here. And this is probably enough for now, you see, because actually there's a lot more we want to change before it's ready, but it's gonna become a mess, and then you can't really tell what's going on there. So we're probably gonna zoom into 100% just to make this whole thing. Let's see, full screen, kind of flip over the rulers just to try and get as much as possible. We're kind of trimming off the top of one, but it doesn't matter too much. Just take a screenshot. I don't really bother saving out files because it doesn't matter too much. We're not really working at high res over here. Just put all the rulers back and then send it. Okay. So there we go. And now, I don't know if I've got enough time, but I'd like to review our master's model as well. So get a new file. I'm actually just gonna close that without saving. I don't care. It's fine. I'll probably have different thoughts the next time, and that's fine as well. So let's grab our master's model. We're gonna have this back view because this is the most developed model, and just gonna lock the layer again because I always make the mistake of drawing on it by accident. Now we're just gonna review this. So this is from yesterday's stream, and it's pretty cool that he made it. I don't. It's pretty early in the model, so if we compare it to, just grab what we got. I'll also ping him. I should have probably started with him because he needs to leave in a minute, but that's okay. And also I got a PM from someone else saying they want to contribute, which is pretty fantastic. I'll get back to you later. So anyway, what we want to do is we want to have a kind of split down the back. I wanted to get out the screenshot that we got of the model from yesterday, so we just check out the channel, scroll all the way down. Now, basically everything I do is for a good reason usually. So, if we look over here where the back of the ship is, it's got a split back, and also these things are more vertical, so they're not tilted backwards. And the reason for that is that then you can really trace the shape of the ship forward, and this is where the connection between the bridge and the front of the ship comes into play. So this thing is bad, right? The reason it's bad is because you have a element which is above the hierarchy. It's sort of sticking out, it's above the model, and then it's sort of merging into the same level with a material change, right? So that's kind of a really messy junction over here, and it's really confusing as to what's going on here. Now, in the original drawing, I kind of just really badly drew it, so it looks like it's supposed to do that, but I also made sure to sort of show that it's got this overhang and it's still coming in. But, you know, things like that happen, so that's okay. So we're just gonna, you know, ask ask it to shift the model across a little bit like this, and then what you want to do is you want to kind of continue it down. Uh, like a mistake to make, I think, is to change the geometry of the model as it's going down into the water level. I think that's probably the wrong thing to do, because I also know that it kind of starts going vertical, so the ship looks like this underwater, which doesn't make any sense at all. It should at the very least be truncated. But anyway, and it's probably going to be vertical, uh, or something like that, right? And then this thing would have to change profile a little bit. That's okay, he can figure it out. It's a good model. About these square things, I mean, they can stay for now. I don't really know if I want them. And then the tilt on this thing is pretty important. He made it vertical, but I think it's better if it's not, because it gives a kind of dynamic stripe to the side, and you can also put this awesome light in the middle, and then that also disappears under the water. Not too much actually, it's not going to be that much deeper, but the point is that the ship is just floating in the water rather than being made to sit at a specific level. And then this thing, you can have some stuff sticking out of here, like the engine ruddery parts, since it's split down the middle. I don't mind. I like what he did with the back of this, actually. I think it should be just a little bit thicker. Uh, just because it's a large element, and large elements, unless it's specifically a panel, should be sort of looking like it doesn't snap off. The antenna, well, that one's nice. Okay, it should be taller. That should be a single block. I know that I drew them as a split, but it should be a single block for the geometry purposes. It's kind of no reason not to. That should be taller. Those should be straight. And then this should be something different over here. This thing wants to go down so that from the front it's kind of extended over the edge. It's looking like this hole over here. Um, Doing that thing, and then that's your tilted whatever, right? So I'll even accentuate it so it's more obvious what's going on there. There we go. Maybe just make it a little bit taller at the end. This thing needs to be connected. Um, it's kind of sitting on its own right now, and it's really a weird element. It's not it's not integrated into part of the ship. That's I suppose the splitting of it is pretty much intended, I suppose, but I think it would be better if it was just a bit more in tune with the ship. So kind of to bridge, and then actually I think it might make sense just extend a little bit. And Armaster's pretty good at modeling, so he'll figure out what to do. The point of this isn't to just prescribe exactly what I should tell everybody to do. It's like, oh, gotta change this to that. It's kind of I'm trying to get there, just to really clean up the design. But then they can do it themselves. How they do it, it's part of it, and is just to get the intent across. So don't need to do it with too much detail. That said, there are bits which are more important, I think, and I think that's one of them. This is important. I won't label it as important. You can figure it out. Um, let's see. And I think for now, this is probably fine. Just what I will do is I'll just make a new layer and circle this bit in blue, and then just tell him to extend this one back a bit. And if you use the color brush, you can actually magically change the color of text. It's pretty clever. So it kind of knows what I'm talking about now. And this drawing is also filled up with too much detail already. So we'll probably stop here. Front gun. So, well, I don't actually know what's going on with the front gun. I mean, what I think it was absolutely fine the way you had it before. So, we just check. Yeah, you changed the front model. I don't know why you did that. I didn't even notice that. I just thought you'd stick on the old one. I just drew it badly in the drawing. Don't copy me just because I drew it like that. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It looks I'll show you how to do it. I'll even put it on the picture because that's yeah, it should be like this. Like this is what we want. Yeah. Let's just get rid of all that. Just a little bit smaller. Um, no, it should be like this. I'll even put a smiley face. Oh yeah, I'm drawing in the color, that's why it's not working. There you go. I'll put a sad face over here because I don't know, man. I think this is so much better. It's even got the hierarchy, so the gun is taller, or like the same height almost as this thing. Whereas this thing, it looks like this thing is way taller, so the side bits are almost not important. But this is the most important part of the whole thing. It's the one that shoots. Of course, it's gotta look the part. It's gotta look big and menacing. That thing could be done with a little bit higher up, just be placed a little bit higher up. But that's okay. I mean, could just flip it. Um, yeah, something like that. I think possibly flipping this vertically could be a good idea. You'll figure it out. And if you don't, I'll flip it afterwards because I need to clean up these models anyway. So, let's see. The good thing about our masters models, they're fairly low poly. So, you can see that most of this, like, assuming he gets the geometry absolutely right, they don't really need cleaning up. You can just grab them, just adjust the stuff you don't really feel like works quite well, and then you just put them in. With other people, you often need to remodel the whole thing from scratch, so it's more like they're contributing an inspirational model rather than an actual piece of work, and then you have to redo it. That said, though, it still saves most of the time because making a model doesn't take that much, but designing a model does take that much. So most of the work comes in from just so anyway. I'm just gonna dump that into the model chat. Oh, and I need to write a message to tag. Just say, great job so far. Here's the promised what? Anyway, there we go. Then our master can deal with it. He knows what to do. And I'll just close that without saving. And then what I actually wanted to do next was probably work on the point fence. So, because you see the bottom of the point fence, it's been a struggle for a while. Let's just open that up. And the reason why is because it's pretty difficult to make it look good. Nomads structures are fairly hard to wrap your head around because, Nomads are a space faction, right? And being a space faction, you kind of have things which go in space. They don't have a bottom, they don't connect to the ground. And the ground is one of the most important parts of a building. Like how a building touches the ground. That's what it's all about. It's how it touches the ground and how it touches the sky. So the bottom and the top of the building are always really important to get right in terms of looks. They completely change the character of the building just depending on those two bits, and the rest of it almost doesn't matter as much. So like consider this thing right in there. In fact, I'll even drag it over to the main screen because it's this important, right? So if we look, the bottom of the building has this fancy stuff, and the top of the building it's just got this little corner. And you think that's not much, but if you think, but that actually is all the difference. If you consider this building over here, it's got a flat top, and it looks completely different to the top of this building. It looks like it sort of just stops, and it looks like an absolute box. Whereas this one looks like a fin, even if it's not a fin, because you don't actually know how deep it is. Although presumably it would be pretty thin, pretty long. It's like a sail almost, which is appropriate for this sailing kind of town with the seaside or whatever. It's pretty nice. But the bottom and the top of the building is really what you get. And then that defines the rest of it. And this is actually a huge square, if you think about it, right? It's huge. But because they just messed around with a little bit over here, it looks like it's a lot less heavy than it is. It's like it's almost placed onto the ground rather than just being rammed into it. There isn't really an example of ground ramming. Let's see. Oh yeah, there we go. So this is like a different way to connect the building to the ground. This is about this concrete kind of heavy material. Looks like it's made out of dirt from Mars or whatever. And it's tilted slightly inwards. And this slight tilt just really makes it look completely different to this thing. And I know it's got different colors and stuff, but this got a tilt up, that's got a tilt down. So, and then and then it separates, and they've got like a material change and everything. So this is like the heavy bit, this is the light bit. But the Nomads definitely want to go on the light side of things, so stilts and these kind of connections at the bottom, so it gets thinner at the bottom, a bit like this one as well. So it's a huge block, right? But it looks like it's floating in midair just because of the thinner kind of end. And the same thing with this. This would be completely different. And that's the problem with our turret. It's because you kind of have to connect it to the ground. And it's pretty difficult to get this right. So what I've tried to do is I've actually tried to sort of have a bottom end and then a top end. And then the top end is all this thinning and like stilts and stuff. It doesn't really work. Doesn't really work. And part of the reason is because this bit is kind of okay, but the question is with what to do with the corner, because it's got a four-way symmetry on it right now. And you kind of have to connect it, and you really don't want to just put a cross because that just look really bad, you know. And you don't want to put a square because that'll look even worse, or like tapered square or something. And what I thought about doing today was just avoiding the problem entirely and making it a two-way symmetry. So it's kind of like this, and then you could still have like some kind of thing with the stilts coming in like that. But this kind of lets us have like a weird thing going on there where you can kind of see into the side of the building. It's almost like a section through it. And basically that's what we're going to try today. So we're just going to, actually no, we're probably not going to monstrously delete the layer. We'll probably just hide it like gentlemen and make a new one. Let's color all those in red so we can tell what we're doing. Set the brush, just juicy opacity on it to about 60% or something, just to make it a bit. Then what we're going to do is we're also going to make the layer less opaque so that we can kind of scribble all over it just to get a feeling for the. I'm just going to have some water. Okay, so quick unhide, just to paint a square on the ground, roughly where the bottom of our building should be, because we don't want to make it too tall. And then that square barely visible so it doesn't mess with us. Then I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit, just to sort of draw the scale. It kind of sticks, and it's good kind of that way. Then drop it down maybe. Look down. Looks a bit too fat. Just put it a bit close to that. It's kind of sandwich. Nomads are like sandwiches, I suppose. They really like their afternoon snacks. And most likely we won't end up with something that looks good or that we're happy with over here, because this is attempt what, number 7, number 8. It's not gonna be an easy. It hasn't been easy so far, so why should it be getting easier later? Kind of hard to make it look right now. It looks like a box on sticks, which is really not what we want. But let's just carry on a little bit more. Just draw some random lines over it. I hope that some of them look good, and that might have actually just happened. I'm not quite sure, but just zoom in a little bit, and you kind of have this top layer where it's got the panel, like that maybe, and it's symmetrical obviously, and then there's got this bottom layer sticking out from underneath, right? I don't quite know what it's supposed to do yet. Let me just, looks pretty bad. Just scribble some more, and then it's kind of got these stick things which go into this. Like this is the base building, maybe kind of thing like that. Which is supposed to be like really heavy and stuff. You know, at one point we actually thought about making these structures land inside the game, so that you could sort of build bottom out, and then this whole thing would sort of go down there. But it's actually a nightmare in terms of coding. Well, it's not a nightmare, but conceptually it is. Because you can totally do that, by the way. It's absolutely possible to sort of have you build the bottom bit and then the top bit lands. However, the problem is that, one, it's an animation which takes time. So, do you do that at the beginning of the building process or at the end? And what happens if you cancel? So you kind of get stuck in this process where you're not really sure what's supposed to happen where because of all these edge cases. You have to resolve all the edge cases at once. Otherwise it just doesn't work. And yeah, so what we're doing is we're actually allowing for the possibility in the model, and then we'll see if when it comes to making it we can add the code in later. So it's kind of planning ahead. So if it doesn't work out, we'll just have a nice model which works, and if it does work out, then we'll have a nice model and a nice feature on top of it. And I'm kind of liking it's maybe a bit more successful than before. I'm kind of liking what's going on there with this sort of panel like this, where it tilts down, and you got the light in the middle. Yeah, it's not looking as bad, but I don't like what's going on over here. This is the only bit that's good so far. And then turret kind of panels can go up like that. Because what this does is it makes it want you to put a leg here, and then you put like smaller legs, or maybe you just have two legs and then you have side supports. Just move this thing up. Let's put the crap up here. Just do a bit of that. Kind of. I'm just putting the lines on at this point just to see what would happen. It's too fat. Like this amount of fatness is better. You want to have some kind of things that stick out, but I don't really know how we want them to stick out yet. Um, maybe even a little bit. Actually, maybe we're getting somewhere. So I kind of like this thing, how this turned out. But I don't really, because if you get rid of this line, maybe if we do like a slightly different, let's zoom in a bit more. So here's our leg, that's going to be sticking out into here. Then we want a thing like this, and that makes these things like actual separated from it. So this is air in between there. Doesn't quite work yet, but if we sort of make this have a thickness, clean this one up a little bit, like so, and then that can be sort of, and then that can be a support. I know, I think that looks a little bit better. It's getting somewhere. However, still not there yet, and I'm running out of steam for today actually. Another thing I wanted to, so I think what I'll do is I'll just save that, and there's other stuff in the queue. There's other stuff I wanted to do, so we might just pop over to that instead. So if we just open a recent one, the Frigate Scribbles contains a top secret part of the file, which is this thing, T2 transport. There you go. We will take off color dodge layer as well. Now we're just going to clean this guy up and make him a little bit more detailed. But before we do that, what I'm going to do is we're just going to delete those mystery pixels that we... Oh, whoops, I forgot to about the selection. gonna delete those mystery pixels outside so that hopefully when we transform the layers together they don't end up. What we're just gonna do is we're just gonna scale it up until it matches the whole screen, because this gives us the space to work out any details on it. And maybe put it down here. Kind of thinking this might turn out into an art rather than a scribble. So just thinking about the composition of the piece. I guess it doesn't matter too much. Let's put it over here. Now just reduce transparency on this guy a little bit, and then we're going to draw over it. Just in a bit more detail than we used to. It looks like our master's been making surprise models in the background. It's pretty neat. It's not what I had in mind though, but that's okay, because he just made a thing. Making things is good. Scale and transform them. So the idea for this one was actually thanks to our master as well, because kind of uh, made this drone carrier model thing. I don't think we need a drone carrier, but it had a nice cabin. And what I started doing was I just started drawing it, and essentially it just turned out into this little thumbnail, which I quite liked. And now I'm just making it bigger, just to add a bit more detail to see what might happen, because it might turn out into a whole new unit, and that's exactly what we need. This kind of development process isn't really too rigorous. Part of it is just to have a bit of fun. Just thinking it might be a bit more industrial looking with these kind of panels on the side. And actually what I'm going to do is, since we're not working on buildings anymore, I'm going to close this and I'm going to open a new reference file so that I can have some more ship related things. I've got a ship things file and a not ship things file, and unfortunately I had to split them up because I have too many images to fit into one reference file, and what happens is it crashes my graphics card. Yeah, and there's two of them which are missing because I deleted them. What it does is it crashes my graphics card. I've run out of RAM, and in the worst case my computer actually restarts itself, so I kind of lose all my work. It's pretty hard. Crash, it's not some kind of just black screen for a minute and then comes back. But yeah, so let's just pick out some nice looking things that we want to have. This one's actually more like a building. Interesting. I'll actually just move it down to the lower screen so we can see what we're doing a bit better. And normally what I do is I just spend about like 10 to 15 minutes just looking at pictures before we get to stuff, and then I pick out the ones which I like best and just put them all together into one space so I can see what's going on a little bit better. Kind of like this one, and these just random pictures are taken from everywhere. They're stuff that I like, so what I did is when I'm picking these, I pick some kind of characteristic that I'm familiar with. would fit Nomads. So what I quite like here is it's got a non-standard shape. The legs, I don't like the legs, but just the idea that you could put stuff in the middle, kind of nice. Just some of these shapes over here at the back, um, they've got every picture has something. I like this shape, so if this was a single ship, this would look very similar to the Nomads Command Frigate, which is in the game now. But two of them, yeah, whatever. But got a bit of a, this one's a nice. It's got layers to it. It's got these sort of panels sticking out. I like this one's a new picture, so I'm extra fond of it, which means that it gets to go even if it's not quite what we're looking for. And the same for these two. You can just grab. I think that one's more like an aircraft carrier like ship. I used it to get an idea for the aircraft carrier model, which is a model in progress right now. There's no harm in putting it in there again. And so these are the large ships, which look like freighters and stuff, which kind of what we want. Oh yeah, and this one's a good one as well, actually. I really like that one. And then these are the small ships, which are more like gunships and fighters and airplanes and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to take a look through them as well, just in case there's something that we like, something that we want to see. This one's pretty nice. I like these fighters. I found this after I made the Nomads ASF. I think this is just a better version of it, but not everyone agrees apparently. Actually, it's interesting. Let's see. This is stuff. This is some kind of looks a bit like planetary annihilation. I don't know, something about this eyeball with the wings on the side reminds me of it. It's pretty nicely drawn actually. Let's see. This one this one got cropped somehow. I don't really yeah, and so did that one. It's not very good. Oh well, I can fix that later. Yeah, this one's interesting as well. It's really got the right shapes, I feel. Kind of square, but not too square. It's got some tapered edges on it. It's layered. It's got the seams and individual panels. This Nomads looking thing. It's even orange. That's really good. If it's orange, that means we're on the right. Oh yeah, and there's this big brand. This one's actually out of a series. There's like 3 or 4 of these. I think they all look really nice. I don't know. It's for some kind of project, I guess. But yeah, they look pretty nomadsy. They've got like panels which are fairly flat, and then they've got some details in the middle with the mushy soft bits at the end. Now we're just gonna arrange these a little bit so they can fit on the screen better. Swap some around so they're roughly rectangular in shape. There you go. Now you can zoom in, move it back to the top screen. Now we have them, so we can use them to look at various shapes while we're drawing. It's always good to have a look at some other stuff so that when you do come to it, you kind of have looked at a lot of ships and other things, and it gives you loads of ideas, and that kind of keeps you going. Now, I'm drawing now is I actually wanted to sort of have some kind of whisker, like a bit of a catfish kind of thing, but it doesn't actually make any sense. So, but when I drew originally, I kind of drew it at a tiny size, and it was like, yeah, let's put a thing. Now we just gotta make it work. Essentially, I kind of still like the idea that maybe it's some kind of panel or a part. And that's the engines down there or something. And it's got its mirrored version of that. A little bit smaller. Just kind of holder and a small secondary holder because you don't want it to be too flimsy. But at the same time, I don't want it to feel like it's connected to the ship. And then the middle is actually me drawing random lines. So I'm going to need to work out what's actually going on here. And interestingly, I'm just starting that by continuing to draw random lines. It's got these big, fat, rectangular, flat kind of engines in the back. I don't really think they look that good, but it's just good for it's a good start. Kind of a thing which is in a lot of my drawings, but in none of the models in the game. And I don't think it should be in the game actually, now that I think of it, because these are just two boxes. They don't really, they have about as much inspiration as, you know, don't know what. And this is kind of a heavy cabin thing going on now. Should probably have like a split, because one thing that Nomads do is have like they're like in the game all the ships are robots. Well, that's for all the factions, but the Nomads as well, right? So I figured that, well, they might as well look the parts. They have this kind of robotic viewport, and the idea is that the rectangular stuff is for stuff where people could be, but usually it's empty. And then the circle is actually the AI's camera, and so that's where this circle thing comes in. It's kind of part of the bridge. So rather than just have a regular bridge, which is just sort of lines or whatever, you know, it's got a double bridge. The one bridge is the bridge for the AI, and the other bridge is the bridge for the people. And then that's kind of how it works for them. And then you put all the antenna magic behind it or whatever. Yeah. So I tried to stick a bit of a kind of a non-human scale stuff in there as well, and a bit of human scale stuff in there as well. Part of that is just to make it look really big. So when it looks big, it looks the part, because these actually are really big. They're sort of, say, 50 meters long or 60 meters long. I don't quite know what the exact scale of this thing is going to be, but I do know that one unit in the game is 20 meters. So this one actually is very long. So for 20 meters square, it could be like this long. So this is what, like 100, 200 meters. Probably not that small a square. Maybe the square is that big. I know that a transport. Oh, it's probably 8 squares. So it's 160 meters long. This thing. So a person's going to be like that size somewhere. This thing's pretty huge. Scale of this game. Just put it in these boxes for now. They shouldn't really be boxes. I don't really like it when you have something like this. It should be a bit more, refined at least. So it's kind of looks like it's got some articulation or something. But for now, we can just connect it with a box. Um, this thing was just a square type, but I think you could fit an engine in here, like a vertical engine. And then these things are kind of hover engines. So actually, that's missing from our precedent list. This is early work by our master. Made these models, and then I just colored them in a little bit afterwards. And the idea was that you could use these kind of wings, these vertical hover stuff for heavy transport units or whatever. I'm just gonna stick that in there somewhere. But it's just to remind us that this is what it might look like. And then this is what transport's doing. And I've probably made a bad decision here taking it using such a thick brush. That's okay, because we've only started and we still want to work out a lot more about this transport, so I'm probably going to actually continue using the thick brush, and then we'll just see how far we take this. If I'm going to color this in, it's gonna probably depend on what level of detail I want to get out of this thing. If I want to make it more detailed, I have to redraw the entire thing in a much thinner brush. And then so you can fit all these colors in and get the reflections and whatever, what have you. And just draw a square there for now, just a little bit more complex. And then this thing, I kind of have no idea what's going on there, but I wanted to kind of almost shell. What I don't like about the current transports in the game is they basically look like this, like a dumbbell shape, and then this thing is super thin, you know? It just doesn't. It looks like break at any moment. But the Nomads, I think, like, they want it to be a bit beefier, even though the overall shape is the same. What I did is beef it up a little bit, because I had it this thickness at one point, and then I made it thicker just to try and make it a little bit more robust looking. And you can, if you were to draw a section through here like this, maybe it would look like kind of that. Something. You can have two rows of this transport stuff. Probably going to be a bit fatter than that. Just maybe something like that, and then just to make it a little bit more complex looking, have these panels in there. I'll just put that in the corner for now, and then draw a tank under it, just to remind us that this is in fact a thing that we want to see. It's a pretty bad looking tank, that's okay. Doesn't look like a tank. Yeah, disgustingly ugly, but that's okay. And I accidentally drew these things in line with each other, which I'm now going to make use of. Probably make them into full out panels, get rid of the things. So maybe just make it a little bit shorter so it lines up with this random squiggle I had earlier. It's kind of, I don't know how other people do it, but this is kind of how I do it. You just draw random lines and then you see which one of them can be made into an actual thing. And then this one, I like how it looks. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do it like this. Those ones are tilted up, and these ones are tilted in. And then this runs along a kind of central thing. And this is where you have like the pipes or something. Yeah, something like that. Key is just to draw stuff and then see which bits of it stick. And then you can have the beautiful team colours on there later or something. And I just want to completely redo the back end probably, so it's not just two huge boxes connected by a third box. It wants to be something a lot more sophisticated, probably. Long word of the day. At least 4 boxes, that's twice as many as 2. Probably make them quite as long. So, like this, and then maybe you could have a bit of this on the back as well. Let's just try that first. We kind of want to zoom out a bit. Just really quickly, just scribble something down that looks the part. I'm just basically putting lines down where I feel like there should be something, and whether that's more detail or more model, I don't really know yet. Just kind of, and then I'm seeing what happens. So now, what past me could have done is put this on a new layer, so that I could put this on a lower opacity and not have to deal with it. But it's too late for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo everything, and then I'm going to redo everything. And that sounds like a waste, but it's not, because I've already had attempt 1. Now attempt 2 should be better. Yeah, so that's attempt 2, and it's probably better. Can't really tell actually. So let's just get rid of the sketch underneath at this point. Don't need it anymore, it's kind of messing with us now. So let's just try and clean up this old mess. this is thinner than before, so I'm just gonna take a synthesize brush again. Most of this is actually schematic. I think it's not bad that I went for a thin brush, thick brush even. Because I don't want to spend too much time on this. It's kind of getting a bit long already. It's 1 hour 20 in the stream. No, I don't want to over commit to this. Don't want to make this into some kind of random 5 hour project. And then maybe the front ones can stick out a little bit more. Kind of like the idea of some kind of tall element over here. I wasn't really sure what it was going to be though, whether it was some kind of random bridge or an engine or something. Right now it's turning out to be an engine of some kind. Some box. Box is always a good thing to put in when you don't know what to put in. We'll leave the modelers, which might be me, to figure out what is actually going on there. I think the most important thing is to bunk off all the hard work to other people. That's going to be someone else, and maybe that someone else is going to be me anyway, but hopefully it's not. Then I don't have to deal with the consequences of my bad drawing. Maybe our master will take this one up as well, but he's actually grabbed quite a lot recently. He's got a lot in the queue. Someone's pinged me in Discord and I probably haven't noticed for about half an hour. No, I didn't notice for about 15 minutes. So yeah, close enough. Well, actually, this is bearing a mention. Check this out. So, while I was modeling, the person who I said I would talk to after the stream has gone ahead and made a model, and it's actually looking pretty good. So, here's what I like about it. The first thing I see is clean geometry. You know, there's no nonsense. It's looking relatively precise. I don't know how precise it actually is, right? I don't know if this angle, for example, is 45 degrees or not, right? But it's close. This angle is clearly not, but it's not supposed to be, right? It looks like a 30-degree angle. What I like about this is that I can't tell if he has. Well, actually, yeah, he kind of has. So this isn't quite a panel, it's just a shape, and you can see it's hollow on the inside. That's okay for now. It's just a really quick sketch anyway. This guy looks like he knows what he's doing. And this isn't like, because thing is that a lot of people do a lot of things differently. There are people who can make fantastic sculptures, right? But they can't make models like this all that well because they don't have an idea of how thick things should be. So this guy's got a roughly right idea of how big each element should be. It's not too thin. It's really bad when you see models which have sort of a thing which looks like it could break at any moment. It's sort of 2 millimeters thick or whatever. But this guy, he kind of has an idea of how to do proportions and stuff. This is a pretty good start. We'll be talking later. Let's see. I don't care about this guy. Yeah, I don't know. So, because I maintain both the 2.7 and 2.8 exporters for Blender as well, so I kind of need to make sure they work. But I don't know why it's not working. It's working for me. And I never had a problem with importing UV maps into Blender. You can make basic models. This guy is actually not so bad either. His stuff is really cute looking. It's not quite there, but he hasn't really tried to make it there. He just does what he wants. So, and it looks pretty good. Anyway, just probably need to go in a couple of minutes anyway. So I'm gonna just really quickly draw some kind of A, and then we're gonna finish right after this. Just making this shape look like something. I don't really know what's going on in here. It's gonna be something, and then there's gonna be something in here. I'm just gonna put it behind these two lines so it looks like it's behind, and then just draw a couple of random lines over here. I'm just gonna erase. So just getting rid of this, and probably done. That'll do. Kind of a bit more detailed version of this guy. We commit a terrible crime and scale down something we'd scaled up previously. Kind of compare what it was before and what it is now. It's a terribly wonky drawing. Perspective on it doesn't line up or anything like that. No. But it's okay, we can always figure that out later. You can always do sort of one of these and then figure it out. Just put one of those in there and then fix it if you wanted to make a good drawing. The point of this is just to get the feeling across, just to sort of say, okay, we've got a big that thing in the back, kind of thing in the front, kind of, you know, thing in the middle. Anyway, that's probably all for today. I'm gonna go in about now, so I'm gonna save that. That's definitely a scribble. Actually, we're just gonna clean up this stuff because it contains an entire other drawing. We can get rid of all those and that. We're gonna keep that. And there we go. Alright, that's all for now.